Turn 1 Soul Ring.
Oh, are you having trouble?
No, I'm good.
Are you in trouble, Eric?
The mic is sometimes like picking up, random things. I see these little ticks and I'm like, what is making sound around me?
I hear you.
Literally.
Speaking of which, this is Turn 1 Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
Hey, I'm Eric.
And we have our editor and guest host, Ainsley, joining us.
Hello.
So today on the show, we are going to be wrapping up our series explaining the events depicted in the novel Planeswalker. At least, I hope so. We also have a bit of magic news to talk about. But before we get to that, Eric, how can listeners find us out there on the internet?
So people can find us over on the Instagram at Turn 1 Soul Ring, the podcast. You can also get directly in touch with us through email. We are Turn 1 Soul Ring, the podcast at gmail.com. And then also over on YouTube, you can find us as well. Type in the old Turn 1 Soul Ring. If you type in the podcast, you'll find us easier.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we're making progress because you don't have to type that in anymore. But it still helps. He's right.
It does help, yes.
All right, so let's move on to some of the noteworthy things that have been happening in the world of Magic in the last... this is probably closer to 2 weeks old now, but it's kind of our style to be a little late to these noteworthy things. But anyways, we did get the full spoiler list for the upcoming Commander Collection Green product. And you've probably heard what the list contains, but in case you haven't, it's as follows. We have Worldly Tutor, Freyalise, Llanowar's Fury, Seedborn Muse, Omnath, Locus of Mana, Sylvan Library, Sol Ring, Command Tower, and Bane of Progress. We still don't know what this is going to cost, right, Eric?
Yeah, there hasn't been a price that's been thrown out there by them yet, so...
And they don't do MSRPs, so we don't... We really don't know. But even Pleasant Kenobi made a good point about this when he made a video about this product, talking about how back when they were doing From the Vault and they did have MSRPs, there was still price gouging. It was difficult to get a From the Vault product at the MSRP price. So I guess my point is just that the fact that they don't have MSRPs wouldn't even be a good indicator of how expensive this product would be.
Totally, because this is also only available at LGSs, and then it's not even just LGSs, but it's what was it? It's like
WPN stores that are like premium WPN stores.
You first of all have to be a WPN store, which means you have to be doing like tournaments and stuff at your store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're a card, because I was watching one of Alpha Investments videos, and because he doesn't do the tournaments at his card shops, he can't get this product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to report the results of your tournament specifically.
Yeah. So even not all card shops are going to be getting these, only ones that, host tournaments and stuff.
And even...
The foil one.
Yeah, you were saying that even the foil one, you have to be an even sort of bigger WPN store to get the foil one, in kind of the same way that you had to be to get the Secret Lair Ultimate Edition.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think we have one store like that in our city that will get the foil ones, but still, who knows how much these are going to cost. I think if they costed like the price of a Legends like Mint Sylvan Library, that would probably be reasonable for what you're getting. But all these cards being reprinted are going to reduce the value of all these cards. So it's we're really going to have to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, like I also wonder. I wonder to what degree, because how many of these are going to be printed as well? Like that's another question mark.
Yeah, if it's that kind of exclusive product. But we'll see. So like I've heard different content creators talk about the price of these, and like somewhere between like 100 and 150 for the non-foil and 200 to 250 for the foil sounds pretty reasonable for what you're getting. Even just like the like Sylvan Library Canadian right now is, I haven't looked at the price since they revealed this list, but it was sitting at like $60 to $70 for quite a while now. So I think that the inclusion of Sol Ring and Command Tower are cool in the sense that they have specific green-centric art. I think they're a bit of a miss because those cards aren't really synonymous with green, especially Sol Ring. They're synonymous with Commander, but I think it would have been better if they had like marketed this product as like 6 cards that are green and then 2 cards that are just, great Commander mainstays. But I think I would have included just specifically green cards, as opposed to these cards that are printed in every commander set all the time.
It's also kind of funny that in their description, they're like, green. The Commander Collection Green is a box set of 8 reprinted cards themed to one color and what it does best. In this case, green, the color of big mana and big creatures. The biggest creature we have is Seedborn Muse as a 2/4.
Yeah. That bit kind of misses the mark.
It's kind of funny. I do have to say, I actually really like the Command Tower art. I want a foil of that one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's they look fantastic. Yeah, and I think however you feel about the Sol Ring and the Command Tower, like the rest of the cards that they have in this set,
they are good. Yeah,
really make up for it. They're fantastic. This is like the first foil printing of Worldly Tutor that I know of, so like that's pretty sweet.
That's actually that's really cool too. So for people who like to get their decks all foiled out,
gotta get them foil. Well, we like foils.
And then of course, if this goes over well, and they do more of them, I just think that you're going to get a Command Tower and Sol Ring in every single one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yep, and that's fantastic for specifically monocolored decks, which is interesting because those are sort of the least popular decks in the Commander format. So I hadn't thought about that up until now, and I think that's a bit of a miss too. Like me, like as a player, I love monocolored decks and the restrictions around them and building around them, but they are a lot less common, I find.
Like I myself have never had a monocolored Commander deck.
Jeez.
I love a monocolor.
Yeah.
Mono white. Woo.
Mono white. Yeah, you're not going to hear that too often.
No, I'm a white stan for sure.
I am 10 cards away from having a monocolored deck, so
that would be an interesting philosophical discussion. Hey, like when does a deck become a deck? Like is it like when you buy the first card for the deck, or is it when you buy the last card for the deck, or somewhere in between? That's
pretty funny.
That's interesting. Should we move on to the Commander Legends spoilers that we got as well?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, well, I was kind of surprised that we got these because I thought this set wasn't coming out until December, but I guess I looked back and watched the videos that they released, I guess it was December or January last year, and they did say just Q4 of 2020, but this set is coming out at the beginning of November, I think, so we're getting... at the time that they released these spoilers, we hadn't gotten any Zendikar spoilers. We have now, but I'm definitely glad they brought back the partner mechanic as opposed to partner with. I haven't had a chance to see how the new partner commanders synergize with the original partner commanders, but anytime you print partner on a card, players are going to start to brew like crazy, and also we might see another like Tymna and Thrasios combination or multiple versions of combinations like that. What do you think about all these spoilers, Eric?
Yeah, partner is definitely interesting. Sometimes I think that it in a way can be a little too game breaking with some of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's I obviously see a certain, like with a couple of the spoilers and stuff, if you're going to do a draft commander set, I think you need to do partner.
Definitely, and especially monocolored partner commanders.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see like what they do with like just what these partners are going to be like, because we're getting, I think it was like just over 40, so there's going to be like 1,500 plus combinations, which is insane.
Yeah, and as if commander staples weren't as expensive enough already.
Yeah,
telling me.
Yeah, do it like me, everybody. Just print a proxy cube and then you don't need to build another commander deck.
There you go.
No, I kid. I'm going to build more commander decks.
But I think it'll be fun to brew around all these different partner combinations as well, because it really gives, like I said, if there's over 1,500 combinations, that's a lot of stuff to look at and try and brew around and such. So
yeah, and that's a lot of content for content creators. So we're gonna have to get Riley on this.
Hi, Riley.
Nice, throwing it back.
Yeah.
I like that. We're also getting 2 commander decks with this Commander Legends set. We don't know what's going to be in them, except mostly reprints. But yeah, it's just kind of funny that we got these spoilers before Zendikar. Now we're getting Zendikar spoilers, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing that they did. I guess they did it in tandem with the Commander collection to kind of, give us the collection and then give us the spoilers as a little bit of dessert. But either way.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. Okay, so, is there anything else we need to talk about before we get back to Urza and Zancha?
I guess there's also like an interesting new foiling that they're doing for this set as well.
Oh, right, the etched foiling. It's also like similar or the same as that Flesh and Blood card game where it's like the cold something foiling. I can't remember what they call it, but it's a type of foiling where the cards don't curl.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of more reminiscent of like old Magic because it's just the border that's foiled out.
Oh, I love that. I love old school foils. They're my favorite.
Yeah, so you can definitely, if you head over to magic.wizards.com and find the Magic Commander Legends spot, they have a little video at the bottom that shows you what the etched foiling looks like. So it's pretty cool.
Cool.
They showed off with Prosh, and so definitely with a gold bordered card as well. It looks pretty sweet.
Fantastic. Loving it.
I also have, before we get to the story, I just have another little interesting tidbit over in the world of eBay.
eBay.
Yeah, two things here. First of all, a record has been broken.
World record. They got Guinness on this.
Yes. Someone called Guinness.
So a PSA 10 graded card, which means like it's super minty, of an alpha Black Lotus, sold for $250,000 US.
$250,000.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like if you have extra money and you are a fan of something, go for it. Like,
Oh yeah, I'd be buying slabbed Magic cards
Oh.
if I had stupid money.
God, why not?
Yeah.
Like if
I would too.
if I had so much money, I would buy ridiculous things like face moisturizer that costs $500.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah, you can't take it with you.
No.
Absolutely. Well, that's pretty insane, but
It's
that's
insane,
the
but-
reserve list for you.
It is also the reserve list stuff.
No, I'm
The other
kidding.
interesting.
Like if they reprinted Black Lotus in a set, in a Commander Legends type set or like a Canadian Highlander type set, that's probably more appropriate, or Legacy Masters. The value of that 10 alpha, that mint 10 alpha Black Lotus, that value I don't think would be affected even 1%. But that's
I think
Black
it would
Lotus.
be affected.
There are reserve list cards that would be affected by being reprinted, but cards that are that old that were only printed in those first few sets, I don't think they'd be affected the same way, just because they're physically so different.
Yeah, they wouldn't be affected the same way. I think there might be like a little bit of effect just because I think people like right away people would be like, "Hey, Wizards said they weren't going to do this and they did. What the heck is going on?" But I think the price would still stay very, very high. Yeah.
Definitely.
The thing I found very interesting, though, besides that, in the same article, was that Magic the Gathering cards searches has gone up 20% on eBay since March 2020, which is when everything was shutting down for COVID stuff.
Yeah, and when everybody started getting their stimulus checks, that they could just spend that money on whatever they wanted.
And I think it's
So
that people who would go to their LGS and like flip through the binders or whatever, couldn't do that anymore, right? So you flip through eBay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so just, probably searches in general went up. Like online. Online
Everywhere.
sales in general went up.
100%.
Went up.
Yeah. Alrighty. So let's get to the stuff here. Let's get to this episode title here. Thank God we have timestamps. I just feel like it's the courteous thing to do. So in our last episode, we covered Urza and Zancha's return to Dominaria. Well, we also talked a little bit about them in Sarah's realm, but we specifically left off with Zancha flying through the air after being too close to an exploding Phyrexian ambulator. And it was a bit of a cliffhanger. So let's get right back into it.
It was.
Are you looking at my screen?
I'm peeking.
Okay, you can peek.
Thanks.
Zancha woke up sitting against a tree's broken trunk. The portal explosion had thrown her so hard she'd shattered the tree when she struck it, but Urza's armor had kept her whole. Rat was there with her while she was unconscious, which wasn't very long. While she was out, though, Urza arrived. He had thought Zancha was in some kind of distress wherever she was because of her heart. And if you remember back when Urza and Zancha traveled to Phyrexia, and Zancha found the vault filled with newt's hearts, and as Urza was killing Phyrexians, the hearts in the vaults flashed and then went dark, and Zancha's heart had given off the same flash or a similar flash when she hit the tree, so Urza had assumed the worst. Got to keep that heart. If you have a sleeper agent as a companion, keep that heart. That's my advice.
Yeah, there you go.
So by the time Urza arrived, there were no Phyrexians for him to deal with, but he did chide Zancha for engaging them in the first place, especially with his brother present.
Right.
Urza stopped reining Zancha in when she told him that the man they had been following used an ambulator, something that neither of them had seen in centuries. Unfortunately for Urza, though, who was hoping to examine this new piece of Phyrexian technology, it was gone. So the three of them proceeded to examine the body of the dead priest. Zancha and Rat told Urza how the entire encounter had unfolded. Urza seemed very interested in the fact that the priest was so greatly affected by the high-pitched noises made by the concussive firepots, which made him kind of like all just bleed from his face and die.
Cool.
Yeah. Urza left shortly after they finished examining the priest's corpse, while Zancha and Rat waited for her wounds to heal before they did the same.
Right, because she broke her elbow and some other things.
Broke her face. Yeah, and as soon as she, I didn't put this in the outline, but as soon as she, I guess, regressed the armor, all the parts of her body that had been damaged, instantly like swelled up, and she was just a mess.
Oh, I'm sure.
But newts heal incredibly fast, so she's fine. But it still did take a few days for her to heal before her and Rat made their journey back to the cabin in her bubble.
To get it on.
Well, they probably got it on. Like, she was probably good to go.
Yeah.
To make the trip, and then they banged, and then...
Yes.
Yeah. And he's like 20, right? He's a young guy.
He's virile.
He's in his prime. Yeah. But by the time they did make it back to the cabin, Urza was already working on a new plan to flush out the Phyrexians that had infiltrated the cities of Teressier, which is the continent on which they live. And that plan was to use tiny artifact creatures that emitted a high-pitched sound that only Phyrexians could detect or hear or feel. With enough of them and the artifact creatures, and with them emitting their sound long enough, Urza believed that it would kill most Phyrexians. So Urza had created tiny artifacts that looked like spiders, which is kind of redundant, but he activated one that he was showing to Zancha and Rat. The spider began to produce a high-pitched screaming sound that only Zancha could hear, being Phyrexian, and Zancha immediately fell to the floor and began to writhe in pain. She tried to draw breath to yawn out her armor, but the sound had taken possession of her body. After a few more seconds, Urza stopped the spider from screaming. Control and reason returned to Zancha, and except for a few bruises and a badly bitten tongue, that's the worst, she was no more than dazed. Urza explained that the sound the spiders made only affected Phyrexians. It worked by vibrating the glistening oil that flowed through their bodies until the oil breaks apart.
De-emulsifies.
Science. Urza explained that if they could plant these spiders throughout the cities and towns of Teressier and activate them at the same time, they would be able to kill every Phyrexian within range of the sound. The spiders were too small to activate using a wick or fuse, and something like that would take too long anyway. And they also wouldn't be able to be activated in tandem, which is what Urza was planning. He planned to use the Glimmer Moon to activate them.
Ooh.
What's the Glimmer Moon?
I'm glad you asked. The Glimmer Moon, or the Null Sphere, as it was originally known by the Thran who built it, was one of two satellite moons that orbited Dominaria. This was something that I didn't even know about planes, but they're essentially like planets. So when they planeswalk and they go into like the blind eternities, it's just space. Because I guess like you can't just go into space without a spacesuit, but you also don't instantly die. So like their space is a little different.
Whenever you say planeswalk, I picture someone like doing a little moonwalk backwards.
Oh, okay.
Like that's what I picture.
Okay.
Every time.
Huh. Well.
Why moonwalk?
I mean, planeswalk, moonwalk. That's all I got.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
So the Glimmer Moon was originally a Thran base designed to control the Empire's artifact soldiers, but during the Thran Civil War, Yawgmoth took control of it and used it to turn the artifact soldiers against the Thran. After the war, the Null Sphere remained in orbit for millennia, its original purpose eventually being forgotten.
Kind of like the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, Pink Floyd.
Nice.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I was thinking more like Sailor Moon's lesser known cousin or something.
Glimmer
Glimmer
Moon.
Moon.
That?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, since the time of the Thran, the moon had begun building up large amounts of white mana. When the Glimmer Moon was at its fullest and brightest was when it was the most full of white mana.
Go figure.
It's just full of it.
It's just full of it.
Urza had implanted a crystal into each screaming spider with one end of the crystal charged with white mana. Each crystal was placed in a drop of water where it floated on its side inside the spider. When the Glimmer Moon was full of white mana and reached its zenith,
It's apex.
there you go. It tugged the charged end of the crystal, which would stand up in the drop of water. Then the spider would be activated, and it would emit the sound that would kill any Phyrexian that heard it.
Yeah, like how much detail we got on these spiders.
Yeah, they're very cool.
They're pretty cool, yeah.
This whole little premise here is very all the crystals and the full moon. It's very.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
It's hot
pretty
topic.
hot.
Yeah.
So there were details of Urza's plan that were much more complicated, like how many spiders to put in a city and how far apart they had to be effective. They couldn't be too close, but they also couldn't be too far apart.
Like Wi-Fi.
Exactly. But over the next several months, the three of them worked it out.
It's like there's too many people who have Wi-Fi here, so your Wi-Fi is fucked.
Oh, Wi-Fi in an apartment building? I do not miss that.
Woof.
Oof.
So they had a division of labor. Rat was tasked with building as many spiders as they would need to plant throughout Terrestia. Once he was finished with that task, Urza charged and implanted a crystal for each of them. And while Rat built spiders, Urza and Zancha would travel all over the continent, planting them in every place they would need to inflict the maximum amount of Phyrexian casualties. And you're probably wondering about Zancha, right? Because if they set off all these spiders, what's going to happen to her?
Right. She needs to be in a
I feel
safe
like she's
spot.
going to be away.
Yeah,
right?
she'll just be far away or something.
She'll be in like the South Pole.
Right. Yeah. The armor.
Well, it sounds like they only have some sort of range to them by what they were saying and putting them in the city.
Yeah,
and
just
stuff,
like don't be in a city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. Sort of moving ahead a bunch of months, several months, let's say. This whole thing probably took the better part of a year. On one of Zancha's last missions to Pinkar City, Zancha encountered someone she hadn't seen in over 3,000 years. So what a reunion. While planting spiders near the largest of the holy temples in the city, she caught the scent of glistening oil, a scent that she followed into the temple. Once inside, she noticed a large hole in the floor in the middle of the temple in the form of a descending staircase. The smell of oil was stronger the closer she got to the staircase. Zancha yawned out her armor and began to descend. On her way down, she deposited several spiders on the spine of the staircase. The stairway ended in a vaulted crypt with extremely poor lighting. The sight of Phyrexian artifacts answered a wealth of questions about how deeply they had infiltrated this city.
Would this be like if we caught the scent of blood kind of thing? Is it sort of like similar the way they're all... Because it was like talking about Phyrexians having oil in them?
Maybe.
Or is it different oil?
Yeah. Well, it's like, it is essentially their blood.
'Cause
Yeah,
there's
that is
like,
a good comparison.
there's olive oil, but then there's like gasoline oil, and those are very different.
Or there's just gasoline.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
like the
Car
Phyrexian
oil,
oil
you know
has
what
a
I mean.
very specific smell that like Phyrexians really know. So
Yeah, it could, definitely, yeah, that's a good comparison, actually. So Zancha walked toward the open passageway into the crypt. Once she was inside, the air smelled pure Phyrexian. Sounds like a cologne or something.
I love it. Ode to Planeswalker.
what are you wearing? Pure Phyrexian.
PP.
I just put a little pee-pee on.
Just dab on a little PP. Yeah.
Zancha had a sense
geez.
that she had entered a much larger chamber and the sense that she wasn't alone. I keep grabbing the mouse, but it's not what I should be grabbing.
Yeah, that's right.
Zancha heard the word meatling uttered as at her through the darkness. 3,400 years, give or take a few decades, and Zancha knew that voice instantly. It was Gix. He's back. And he has a new arm. Remember how he got his arm cut off in that portal?
Yeah.
He's got a new one.
Yeah.
What is
Crazy.
meatling?
Well, that's what the like more like higher ranking Phyrexians, like completed Phyrexians call newts because they don't have any metal on them, so they're just meat.
Yeah.
They call them meatling. It's like a derogatory term.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gix had changed since the last time Zancha had seen him. She looked at his waist when she looked straight ahead. So, like, if that makes sense, like, that's sort of how tall he is compared to her. He was altogether more man-shaped, though his metal skin didn't completely hide the glistening sinews and tubes like a human's veins, only filled with glistening oil that wound over his green-gold skin. Gix's forehead was monumental and framed a large gem that was almost certainly a weapon. His skull seemed to have been pivoted open along his brow ridge. A black metal serrated spike ran from the base of his neck to the now raised base of his skull. From the side, it looked like the spike was rooted in his spine and attached to a red, blue, and yellow fish. Oof.
Fish? What the heck?
He's scary. I think it's just like the shape of a fish.
Oh, yeah.
Just
It'd be
wiggle.
really cool to see an art depiction of this Gix.
A really good one is like the Vanguard art of Gix. So like those Vanguard cards that they did in the 90s. Gix is on them. It's that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Zancha stood transfixed as a narrow beam of blood-red light shone between her and Gix's bulging forehead. She felt surprise, then a command. Listen and obey. Urza's armor wasn't perfect protection against the demon's invasion of her mind, but it added to her own stubbornness and to the walls she'd made ages ago. Gix was no longer able to control Zancha, and he knew it. Gix tried again to infiltrate Zancha's mind, and on this attempt, he noticed the armor that surrounded her. Zancha then fed Gix images from her mind of Urza burning his way through the spheres of Phyrexia so many centuries ago, and Gix knew at once that this armor was one of Urza's creations. Gix told Zancha that he had been waiting for Urza and that he had a message for him. The message was one Urza already knew, that Phyrexia had infiltrated Dominaria and hundreds of other planes across the multiverse, and that he was too late to stop them.
Which, yeah, he did already know about, so... It's like, ooh, Gix.
Yeah, I'm not worried. Gix began to advance on Zancha, and she knew she wouldn't have another chance to escape if she didn't run that instant, which is what she did. Diving to her left, toward the corridor, something hard and heavy struck her back. It threw her forward. She skidded face first along the floor stones, surrounded by red light, but the armor held. Zancha scrambled to her feet and kept running. Gix wasn't accustomed to defiance from a newt, and therefore spent several seconds in a kind of shock, while Zancha kept running down the corridor to the stairs. The stairway was too narrow for Gix's imposing figure, and he wasn't fast enough to catch her before she made it out of the corridor to the stairs. Gix,
I guess from like thousands and thousands of years of this never happening, you'd be like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Gix did have time to hurl one last attack at Zancha as she ran up the stairs. A fireball engulfed her. She clung to the spine of the staircase until it passed. Then she kept going until she was outside of the temple and on the streets of Pinkar City. She didn't waste any time activating her bubble before beginning her journey back to the cabin she shared with Urza and Rat. Rat. He's getting ratty.
Ratepe.
That's right. So when she arrived back at the cabin, Rat was finishing another batch of screaming spiders that Urza would need to implant crystals in. Urza informed the two that he had several new ideas for improving this batch of spiders and wanted to be alone while he did this work. He probably wanted to jerk it or something.
Such a grump. He's
Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna go be by myself and work on my spiders.
but
You two gonna have sex
just-
again?
No one's having sex with me.
it does seem a little suspicious, though.
Yeah, it does, but it's not... I don't think it's suspicious at all. It might be. It's been a while since I read this book.
Okay.
So you're gonna be
Just like,
surprised
you know,
too.
Why do you want to be alone for these spider things that can hurt Zancha?
Yeah, why
And,
can't
like,
we
make
just...
new-
Why can't we just stay in the other half of the cabin?
Maybe they're too chatty, and I understand.
He can hear them through the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe they didn't have noise canceling headphones.
Yeah. Yeah, could be. So he told Zancha and Rat that he would walk them anywhere they wanted to go, for the next 9 days and would return for them when he finished his work. It was a kind of vacation before the Glimmer Moon reached its zenith, and they would all have to see if their work these past months had worked. Zancha's encounter with Gix was something that she chose not to share with Urza for fear that he would travel to Pinkar City and fall into any trap that Gix might have laid for him. I gotta say, I don't, like, in a fight between the two of them, I mean, a Planeswalker? Come on. Who's gonna win?
I think Urza still wins.
Yeah, definitely. Spoiler alert.
It's just like a little... it's kind of crazy still how, like, Urza just thinks that's his brother. I guess it's just a really good disguise.
I guess they look a lot alike. And like he doesn't
like
totally believe it, but I think it's just like I just want my friend.
I thought Urza didn't fall for it. I thought
well he didn't fall for it at first.
Initially.
But then when Zancha told him that the Phyrexians also took Mishra's memories, then he's like, oh, yeah, sure, I got it now.
Oh, man.
If he just doesn't remember something, it was because of his memories being lost by the Phyrexians.
And he read the Antiquities War, or at least Zancha explained the major plot points. So he's good.
So do Urza and Mishra not age then?
That's a good question. Urza doesn't... Well, Urza is ageless because he's a Planeswalker, so he's immortal.
So throughout the book, when Urza's talking to Rat, is he like, hey, Mishra?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's a good question about the aging thing, though.
Well, because if Rat is like 20 years old...
I think the way she, if I remember correctly, the way that she spins it to Urza is that Mishra's been a prisoner of Phyrexia, and so he also hasn't aged. I think that might be it, but let me know in the comments if you've recently read this book. Shout out to the Card Bazaar because I think he's doing this one next. Zancha knew that Urza had changed in the past several months since the arrival of his brother, air quotes. Zancha could see in the way that he behaved. For one thing, the old Urza would not have suggested a romantic getaway for his companions. All that being said, Zancha knew that Urza was still very much concerned with the past. This next part from the novel.
Urza had gotten over his obsession with writing his brother's fate, but he still talked of traveling back in time, much further back in time. Urza wanted to meet the Thran and fight beside them in their final battle against the Phyrexians. He thought they might know the enemy's true home, and although he didn't say it, Zancha believed Urza hoped to travel to a time before the Thran, all the way to the Phyrexians' first world, to annihilate rather than exile them.
Zancha declined Urza's offer of walking her and Rat to another plane for the next 9 days. She instead planned to travel to Koilos with Rat to find clues to the origins of Phyrexia. This was also something she chose not to share with Urza.
Keeping secrets.
Secrets are no fun. Zancha told Urza that she would be taking Rat on a journey through the countryside of Old Teresier. The fact that they wouldn't be anywhere near the cabin while he worked was good enough for him. Just get the fuck out of here.
Fuck out of here. Go on a honeymoon. Get out of here.
You guys banging all the time.
Yeah, why don't you just get married?
Oh.
Well, yeah, why don't you get a room somewhere else?
Why don't you get your own cabin?
Yeah.
On their journey to Koilos, Zancha filled Rat in on everything that had happened in Pinkar City and where they were going, which is always what you want to find out when you're already going somewhere. It took the two traveling in Zancha's bubble over the Sea Laments 3 days to reach Koilos. And I guess...
So they're just hanging out in a bubble for 3 days?
Well, he can sleep, but she has to stay awake.
Did he bring snacks?
They brought provisions, yeah.
Did he like hold a straw up to her mouth while she was busy making the bubble, or can she like multitask, like how you can like eat and drive at the same time? I know I'm very concerned with the logistics of little things in these books, but I mean,
it's just funny to think about.
Yeah, like I can suspend my disbelief for stuff like, you know, the fact that they're planeswalkers. I can suspend my disbelief for the whole world, but like if in this world they still eat and sleep and stuff, then obviously it's important.
Right, but she's a newt, right? She's not human. She has a little bit more. She's got a little bit more stamina.
So she can stay up for 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Rat is such a trooper.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll live in this tiny cabin with you and your grump companion.
Well, he's a slave. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's a slave. He has to be a trooper. He's like, all right, I'll do what you tell me to because I gotta be here. But I guess Sancho wants him to want to be there.
I want that. Is what she says.
Sounds like her.
Yeah. Just
Just
got
like
that Phyrexian accent. So when they reached the caves, they made a small camp to stow their supplies and began their search. Their initial search of the caves and surrounding area gave them no clues to the Thran-Phyrexian War. Because of this, Zancha wanted to leave only a few hours after they had arrived, even though she was like super tired from being awake for 3 days, but whatever. Rat wasn't in a similar rush to leave because he probably didn't want to get back in that fucking bubble.
No shit.
He explained that he wanted to see Koilos in the moonlight before they left.
Aw.
It's probably romantic.
That's right. Is it in the glimmer moonlight?
Yeah. It'd be
Yeah,
one of
I
the
guess.
moons. They have 2 moons,
Oh.
but yeah, they have 2 satellites. Yeah. I don't know if the other one is naturally forming, but the glimmer moon's is fake. It's not fake. It's real. It's just it was built.
Man-made.
It's like the
there
Death
you go.
Star.
Exactly. But that's no moon.
Nice. Ow.
Considering what the journey had taken out of Zancha, she decided that she could use the rest. She told Rat to wake her at sunset that night, and that is exactly what he did. Rat led Zancha to the main cave where sunset light was pouring in through the cavern mouth. Zancha was transfixed by the sight, but Rat wanted her to turn around to see the carvings that covered the walls, which only became visible once the sunset light bathed the cave. Zancha turned to look and would have collapsed if Rat hadn't caught her. She's surprised. Zancha explained that she could read the carvings on the walls. She said that the Fane of Flesh had similar lessons carved into its walls. The carvings on the walls were an outline of the Thran-Phyrexian War. That what they said was that the war between the Thran and Phyrexia was really a civil war, which I think we talk about in like part 1 of this series. So this isn't a surprise to anyone, but it's a surprise to Zancha. So think about that. They explained that there had been no Phyrexia until Yawgmoth left Dominaria and created it. Zancha found it hard to believe that Urza had been so wrong about this for almost his entire life. They had spent almost 1,000 years looking for the world the Phyrexians had come from. And all that time, it had been Urza's world. Wow. So just imagine how Zancha's feeling right now. And Rat was probably just thinking, I wanted to do something romantic for you.
Yeah.
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 Ouch. She's going to have to get back in that bubble.
And then devastation.
Now that they knew the truth about the Phyrexians, they knew it was probably not something they should share with Urza. Just because they didn't know what he would do if they found out the Thran were also the Phyrexians. Like, it's kind of complicated, but he'd probably get upset.
They gotta really walk on eggshells around this guy.
Yeah, just in general.
It's like, I'm gonna lie to you about your brother. I ran into Gix, I'm not gonna tell you about it. Saw some cave wall drawings, not gonna tell you about it.
It's going to be fine.
It's fine. The foundation of their relationship, like Urza and Zancha, it's based on lies, and that is not healthy. You know what is healthy? Communication.
That's right. Yeah.
Even among platonic relationships.
Yeah, but they're like, you know, they'd had such a rough
He like
time.
mistrusts her, and he's like, "You're stupid and shitty." Like that's what he said to Rat. He's like, "Rat, don't like her. She's dumb." It's
like,
basically what he said to him.
It's like, then why have you been dragging me around for the last 3,000 years?
He's like, "I wish
is
I
just
could
the main
quit
problem.
you."
Yes, it's just like Brokeback Mountain. You're absolutely right. So with this new revelation, the two of them headed back to their cabin.
Fucking cabin.
During their trip back, Zancha got the there's
Cute, read it.
so during their trip back, Zancha got really tired and lost control of her bubble.
Oh no.
And they ended up in the ocean, and Urza had to save them after Zancha broke the summoning crystal that Urza had made for her.
Okay, so this is why Urza is like doesn't love Zancha the most, because it's like, oh God, I gotta come and clean up your mess. You can't control your bubble. I gotta save you from the ocean.
Okay, well
That's high maintenance.
He gave her the bubble, first of all, and he also gave her the summoning crystal. So if he didn't want to be bothered, he shouldn't have given it to her.
He's like, take better care of the stuff I give you.
It's still really surprising to me that like she still wanted to go back still that soon? Because it's like you just were up for 3 days traveling in this bubble. What do you think's gonna happen?
I guess I feel like she had to be back in like the 9 days, or I don't know. She would have been punished. I'm not sure. They really emphasized the 9-day time frame. We got to get back in 9 days, Rat.
Well, because the moon's gonna apex, isn't that why?
No, they still have time even after they get back before the moon apexes.
Oh, all right. Well, he said 9 days, and she commits to her timelines.
Yeah, if you're not gonna do it, don't say you're gonna do it. So I think that this is just this whole thing with them falling into the ocean and everything is just a plot device to make us remember the summoning crystals, because Zancha is going to use a new one to make Urza find her on their big night, which is the Glimmer Moon's apex. Urza was also a bit upset that Zancha had taken his air quotes brother to a place he would have rather traveled to with his brother. But let's move on to what happens when they get back to the cabin. We're finally back at the cabin.
I guess I could see him being annoyed with that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's a pretty important spot for them. It's sort of where this whole thing started. At least with the Power Stones. Of course, like this whole thing started when they were like shitty kids and their parents didn't raise them properly. So they have this sibling rivalry that caused an ice age, essentially.
You can't pit your children against each other.
No, you can't. And also don't have like two kids in the same year, so that the first day of the year is like the first kid's birthday and the last day of the year is the other kid's birthday, because that's just going to cause problems too.
Yeah.
And the Dominarian year must be like 18 months or something, because I don't know what's going on here. Urza explained to them the idea for what would eventually become the Tolarian Academy reserve list. He talked about using places like the Academy to build massive artifact sentries that would be placed all over Dominaria. They would be used to defend against the coming invasion. These sentry defenses would be manned by assistants to their cause. These assistants would become the guardians of the sentries. They would become the patriarchs and matriarchs of permanent communities surrounding the sentries. But Zancha couldn't be a part of it. Urza expected that Zancha and Rat would leave together and live out the rest of their lives. Well, I guess the rest of Rat's life, because Zancha was immortal. Zancha was somewhat upset by being exiled by Urza again, but by now she had learned that no matter how much affection and dedication she or anyone else had for Urza, he would never be capable of returning it. Yeah. But at least she's got Rat. I got my Rat boy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like he's her papa and he's just not giving her the love that she wants, so now she has daddy issues.
Oh, she definitely has daddy issues.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But in any case, the night of Glimmer Moon Zenith was fast approaching. At dusk, the night before the moon reached its highest point, or its apex. I think that's a much better word. I don't know why I went with Zenith. Probably because of the cycle.
Both are good, though.
The cycle of Zenith cards. It's just fun to say.
Yeah.
Urza walked Zancha and Rat to Pinkar City to get into position for the following night when he would activate the spiders. Urza instructed them to get to the top of the temple at the center of the city, the same temple that Zancha had encountered Gix in. Once there, they would wait for the Phyrexians to be revealed. This was also a place far enough away from the screams that the spiders emitted to keep Zancha from hearing them. So she's like right in the thick of it. She's not far away. I tricked you guys.
Yeah.
Even with distance and Zancha's armor to protect her, Urza had also given Zancha 2 lumps of wax to stuff in her ears as one final measure. Because that's what you want. You know, if all else fails, stuff some wax in your ears.
Well, when it comes to sound, I guess so.
That's the old school way of earplugs. That's what they did.
Yeah, they didn't have foam.
No.
Zancha and Rat made their own camp on the city streets until the next day, when they would make their way to the center of the city to get into position at the top of the temple. Once there, they waited. Zancha was prepared with her armor on and her ears plugged when the spiders started screaming in the early hours of the morning. At first, only a few sleepers fell, some of them from the ranks of the Red Stripes. Whenever I read Red Stripes, I always think about that Jamaican beer commercial. I'm not going to say it, but I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. Some of the Red Stripes must have known there were sleepers among them, as they distanced themselves from their fallen comrades quickly. That's not cool. I think the only way that that's acceptable is if you think they're like weird kind of aliens. It's like your comrades fall and you're not just immediately helping them. More sleepers began to succumb to the screaming spiders as well as completed Phyrexians among the red stripes. As the screaming spiders intensified, the sleepers and completed Phyrexians, both on the ground and standing upright, began to explode.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. The sound, as Urza had promised, had reached its zenith with the glimmer moon. This horrifying spectacle was also happening all over Teresier. Not only did the vibrations caused by the screaming kill Phyrexians, but buildings throughout the city began to collapse, causing massive devastation. And that's just collateral damage. Didn't plan for that.
Their bodies are just exploding everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll get you. It might affect other kinds of oil too, like if they oiled like brick buildings as they're building them. I don't know. Just thinking.
Right.
It's off the cuff.
Sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. They probably don't do that, but who knows? The central part of the temple's roof that Zancha and Rat were perched on collapsed, and from it, Gix emerged surrounded by the same red glow that he had when Zancha encountered him below the temple. So there's like Zancha and Rat are safe. It's like they weren't perched on that part. They were sort of on a different part of the temple structure. And as soon as Zancha saw Gix, she broke the new summoning crystal that Urza had made for her. See, it came back. Urza didn't immediately arrive. He hadn't said where he would go to watch the glimmer moon that night. But just as Gix started causing trouble, what a troublemaker that guy, Urza arrived, and what unfolded next was a Clash of the Titans type battle with the two of them flying through the air, hurtling beams of energy at each other. And when I was reading this part in the book, it kind of reminded me of the Ainsley's Hulk, where at the end Eric Bana and Nick Nolte fight, and they're just like fighting in the clouds. Like Hulk's just like fighting clouds. That's sort of what I thought of. Whereas like in this scenario, Gix is Hulk and Urza is the clouds. But anyways,
Did it have like a decent description of the fight, or?
Yeah, but it's fast. It's a good description, but it's very fast. It's you sort of feel the same way after it as you do in that in the Hulk movie. So it's like it's cool, but it's not fantastic. But of course, Gix wasn't a match for Urza, and after a short fight, he fled the city. Shortly after that, the spiders stopped screaming, and the people of Pincar City started cleaning things up.
Gotta get my broom out.
Yeah.
And just clean up
these
guy.
buildings. Crushed all these people.
Everywhere.
They don't even talk about all the people that were probably crushed from like these
sure.
buildings collapsing. So like score one for Urza. Turns out that Urza had been keeping an eye on Gix this whole time and was waiting for him to poke his head out. And he didn't tell Zancha because he didn't want to frighten her. So he's also keeping secrents. Which we knew.
Got secrets.
We knew. I think the only one that doesn't have secrets is Rat, but he also kind of does because he's faking, being a guy.
But he's doing that because Zancha
Being the
told him
brother.
to, and he's a slave.
Yeah, plus he wants, he wants to get up in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the three of them chased Gix back to Koilos, which is where Gix ran to. I don't think I mentioned that. Once there, they made their way into the caves. They found Gix in the second cave that they entered, and Urza and Gix immediately began hurtling all manner of sorcery at each other. It was all that Zancha and Rat could do to avoid being struck by both the demons and the Planeswalkers' attacks. The battle eventually came down to a contest of wills embodied by a web of blue-white light between Urza and Gix. This display of power was created by Urza's Power Stone eyes and the Power Stone that was affixed to the middle of Gix's forehead. Zancha and Rat intervened when they saw that Urza was losing when his Power Stone eyes were being pulled from their sockets.
Owie. I was about to compare this to the Care Bear stare, but
It's kind of like that.
I don't think their bellies get ripped from them
If they lose, if they start to lose.
against no heart. Yeah. Yeah.
They moved to either side of the web and reached into the light to stop the Power Stones. Zancha and Rat did this. Gix tried to destroy them, but in the moment when his focus was distracted, Urza's Power Stones were freed, and he was able to destroy the demon in the form of a huge explosion, which also killed Rat and Zancha. Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Urza was merely knocked unconscious by this explosion.
Just right there.
Yeah, that's
Boom,
it.
done.
Boom, done. That's right. So when Urza awoke, he realized that his companions were gone. And, he was sad, especially for Zancha. The story ends with Urza being more determined than ever to travel back in time to save Dominaria, but also to begin preparations for the full-scale Phyrexian invasion that was coming. As Urza made his way out of the caves, realizing that he still had a literal piece of Zancha in the form of her Heartstone, which is going to come back in time streams. So she's lost but not forgotten. So she'll live on. Don't worry, guys. We'll cover that in the next one.
At the end of time streams, does he like stand on the edge of a ship and throw her little Heartstone into the ocean?
No, it's much better than that.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Outstanding.
much better than that. With that, we're gonna wrap this episode up.
Wow.
Yeah, we hope you've enjoyed our Explain series. We're gonna continue it with time streams, not next week, but some point in the future. And thank you all for listening. And Ainsley, thank you for joining us and for editing the show for our listeners.
My pleasure. Gotta say, I'm a little shook that Rad is dead. That's who I'm sad about.
You're sad about Rat?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You're not sad about Zancha. She's like the best character.
I mean, I'm sad
Yeah,
about
Zancha's
Zancha.
awesome.
But she's lived so long already.
Yeah, but she only just started to love.
Aww.
A dead guy now.
Yeah, a dead guy. They're both dead. But you know what? That's probably better, right? That they both died at the same time, because she would have just lived forever, right? She would have had to watch him get old and decrepit, and that's I think that's more of a tragedy.
That's really funny because I actually just finished watching a series where that exact thing happens. One is immortal, one is not, and they get married, and it's like, well, what the hell are they gonna do? And then he ends up dying. It's like, oh, that's what they're gonna
Yeah,
do.
that's
He
clever
doesn't
writing
grow
right there.
old. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, again, thank you for listening, and we'll have Riley back next week.
That's right. And where can people find you on social media?
Oh yeah, I'm on Instagram at Command Beacon, and Eric doesn't trust social media, so he's not on there. And do you want to plug your social media?
Sure, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm Ainsley Amethyst on
Yeah.
Instagram.
And you also have an Etsy. You got some cool stuff on there.
I do, yeah. There's a link in my bio on my Ainsley Amethyst account.
Cool.
If you want to check it out.
Right on. All right, everybody. Well, we hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, friends.
Bye now.
Thanks, everybody.
Turn one soul ring.